Good morning,
Hello.
DJ.
Hi, Louisa.
Nice to meet you. So we were gossiping about the book, gossiping about Michael. So everybody,
Yes.
this is Jjbola. You've all read his bio. We only have 45 minutes with him, so I'm not going to. So once again, thanks for this book. It took me time to get into it. I had to read it twice, and I must say, I was reading it like a Nigerian. Yeah. So how do you say your last name? Is it Bola, like Yoruba,
Yes.
or
No, it's Bola, like in Lingala. We say Bola.
Bola? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was Bola, like in Yoruba. So first of all, I was reading it as like a Nigerian because in Nigeria we say now who chop belle full now they find problem. That is who has eaten and to his fill goes about looking for problems. So when he
Right.
said, okay, yes, he's going to kill himself when he finishes after spending all his money, I got to a point where I was like, you've still not killed yourself. So I keep saying I'm a work in progress, right? I'm still learning vulnerabilities, mental health, with masculinities and all of that. So please talk to us about this, your book, the inspiration for it, and why would you start a book with a man wanting to kill himself? Like that got me. Let me see. I quit my job. I am taking my life savings, $9,021. And when it runs out, I'm going to kill myself. So when I read it, I'm like, really? Okay. So please talk to us about that.
Um, yeah, I mean, thank you for choosing it, firstly, and thank you. The way you describe it, reading it like Nigerian, that's so funny. Um, I think for me, so I've always been passionate about mental health. I studied it. I studied psychology in my undergraduate. I've worked in mental health. I work currently in mental health. And as well, I've written about masculinity in my previous books and poems, and mental health, particularly suicide, depression, and masculinity, has been something that I've been really interested in and reading about over the years, right, for a long time. So, when I got the opportunity or the idea kind of came to me, write about I initially wanted to write about a character, a man, a black man, specifically, who was going through a difficult time, who was kind of struggling with his vulnerability, his masculinity, his life, and I wanted to show how someone like that would move through the world. And then, so initially, the idea came that this is someone who wants or is thinking about his life. There's a lot of books that kind of look at people who have ended their life and maybe the effects, or look at it from a different way, but not really, many books that actually get to sit with the character whilst they're in that feeling. So I basically thought about how I could, obviously it's a sensitive subject. I thought about how I could introduce the subject to people without scaring people off or, turning them away. But then I realized that the best way to do it is just to be direct. And so people already know what to expect, what they're getting into. So initially that line came way after, but I just thought, let me just put it in straight away so you know exactly what you're going to get, and then you can go on a journey with this person.
Yeah, because the Nigerian in me at the point was angry. I'm like, oh, you still haven't killed yourself. Then I go to the next chapter. Oh, you're still alive? Like, really? So this is a man who you can tell, because I read something here and I was saying that he's a man who wants to die, but a man who wants to live at the same time. And the only way he knows how to live is through dying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I researched a lot when it came to the book. It wasn't just me just kind of writing an idea and just going with it. I really researched a lot when it came to writing about depression, writing about suicide and suicidal ideation, and why people do take their lives. And oftentimes it's that people are in a point where they feel extremely vulnerable. They want things to change,
Mhm.
but they don't see a way out. So it's not necessarily that they actually want to end their life. They want to change their life, right? And live a different life almost, but they feel so disempowered from the life that they're living that they're not able to do that. And so Michael is almost in that way. He doesn't want to die. He wants to live, but dying is the only way he knows how, is for him a way that he can feel like he has some control back. His life has been so traumatizing and chaotic and so forth that this is the only way that he knows how he can reclaim his life. And so him going to America, him deciding to use his money to do whatever he wants and then ending his life is a way that he gets to take control back of his own life, really.
Hmm. Okay, so the Nigerian in me is going to give him the side eye. He wants to die, and then he flies to America.
Yeah, and this is the thing, and this is the thing, and I really love that you challenge that, and a lot of people, especially, when I first wrote the first draft, and my editors and my agents were really asking me a lot of questions about it, and we have a particular view of what someone going through depression looks like, right? Or how they might behave, or what someone who may be suicidal look like, or what they may behave. And the statistics in the UK at least show that roughly 20% of the population in the UK will experience suicidal ideation at one point in their life or live with suicidal ideation. So a lot of people are walking around, that's 20%, that's one in five people. A lot of people are walking around carrying this feeling burdened by life and not wanting to continue, right? And sometimes it doesn't look like someone just being sad all the time. These people also go on holiday, they take trips, they go to parties, they do all these kind of things, but they continue to do it and carry that feeling at the same time. So I wanted to show that actually someone can be really struggling in their mental health, but still the things that don't look like they're struggling. And that often happens to be the case. We often hear there's so many stories, especially when you think about celebrities and stuff, where someone might have taken their life. And then people think, oh, how could they have done that? They had such good life. They were successful. They were rich. They were this. They were that. But the reality is all of that is just on the surface. The way people feel inside often is very different.
Very true. Okay. Lady, I see your hand up. You're muted. We can't hear you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning from Ottawa. So I wanted to add that usually English folks we go to America when they've made it. Yeah.
Mm,
And it's like, okay, now I've arrived. Where do I need to break into? The US. So it was sort of such a shock for me to see you take the direction of, okay, I've had it with London. I want to kill myself. I'm going to remove all my money and go to another location. When this money finishes, then I'll take the next step. And then
mm.
he got me thinking, did he plan on carrying out the actual suicide in America? Did he have a plan? Did Was he just hoping the money runs out and then what? Did
Mm.
you explore any of those options when you wrote the book?
Yeah, that's a great question. So firstly, yeah, I chose America intentionally because obviously America is seen as like the land of freedom, right? The land of the free. Anything is possible. Anyone can make it, right? You don't really see America as a place that you go to die, right? But America is also incredibly dangerous. I'm sure you've all probably visited or know people who've been in America, et cetera, et cetera. I visited America as well. And I was shocked at just like going to my local supermarket, just to buy some snacks, and the security guard has a gun. I'm like, why is they're just selling biscuits here? Like, what do you need to protect, you know? Um, and so I wanted to flip that on its head and to challenge people's expectations a little bit about why America, why seeing it in this light. And I did think about the different kinds of endings that Michael could have had or could have went through. The he did have a plan initially, and it would have been to, I think his plan was to end his life in because he would have run out of money completely, and he wouldn't have had a way to return really. And I think in that last scene, oh wait, has everyone read it?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I realized I was about to spoil it. Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. In that last scene, where he essentially before he returns, so where he's still in New York, and then he writes almost like, or he starts, packing and talks about how he'll go to Harriman and go to the woods and so forth. That was his plan in his head. That's what was going to happen. But ultimately he chose not to for whatever reason. Um, but yeah, I tried different endings as well. There was an ending where he does take his life, but I just that would be too sad. We need some hope. Like I always feel like we need some hope. There has to be some light at the end of the tunnel, I feel. So
Yes, it was
yeah,
sad enough, trauma inducing, triggering, but all things that, like, we read a book a while back, and this guy said we're all in a state of bewilderment
yeah.
constantly,
Hmm.
regardless of our financial um, status,
Hmm.
marital, whatever. We're all often in a state of bewilderment. So I'm wondering, I've I'm being a little extra here. I'm reading your book, Mask Off.
Yeah.
So, and I know that in this story, all these male figures had all these challenges.
Hmm.
Did did masculine toxicity have
Hmm.
a major role in you writing this story? Like, was it the main motivation? Because then I like Mask Off, I know that's what that's about, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's I know, but so what role did that have? Lola, sorry. Maybe you want to take Lola's question first? Okay, it's okay. All right, please
Yeah.
Yeah.
proceed.
The last time is
Yeah, no, that's also a really good question. Interestingly, I was right. Mask Off came right, but I actually started writing Selfless Active Breathing first. I paused, wrote Mask Off, and then returned to Selfless Active Breathing. So they were both almost like happening at the same
Okay.
time. They inform each other in many ways. And for me, toxic masculinity was definitely one of the factors that inspired me to um, write the book in a way that I wrote the book and my experiences and experiences of a lot of the men around me, because the statistics say that men die by suicide at a higher rate, at 3 times the higher rate than women, and part of the reason is that men die by more violent means, right? But men and women attempt at the roughly around the same rate, but we also
Men
know
are
that
more successful. Are more men
right,
successful
yeah,
or
yeah.
or bold enough to carry out the act?
Right. So yeah, and so we also know like the statistics say that it shows that men don't open up enough. Men are more likely to be alone, uh, more likely to less likely to kind of be vulnerable about their emotions and so forth. And so I rather than writing a character who is just toxic, which I think most people can identify when someone is, especially as a man, like very toxic and can stay away from. I wanted to write a character that's quite middle of the road, who on the surface would seem quite safe and quite good, actually, but beneath that, he is also struggling with his own vulnerabilities, with his own toxicities. He has a complicated relationship with women and the women that he meets. He is someone who you would maybe see as a good guy, but his actions don't necessarily always reflect that. And I think that's also just part of the reality, like you were saying, the bewilderment of being alive as a human being. Our intentions are good and can be good, but oftentimes the execution or our actions may fall a little short. And so my idea was, how do we begin to be forgiving to someone like that, someone like Michael? And in doing so, we learn how to be a little bit more forgiving towards ourselves. And so that was like part of the journey. If we can forgive, I always think like, if we can forgive someone for feeling the way that they do, right? Maybe we can also be forgiven and forgive ourselves, because sometimes we're harsher to ourselves than we are to other people. And I think Michael was just looking for that forgiveness, was looking for that acceptance for someone who saw him, right, in the way that he needed to be seen. Um, and yeah,
Even
life is
without revealing himself. Like,
exactly, even
we're
with
not
exactly,
psychic here, right?
exactly,
It,
right.
it,
And just
it
think about
it's
like,
hard.
think about
It's hard.
yeah, and relationships and so forth and all of that, right? We often the one human desire, male or female, right? Whatever gender, whatever nationality, whatever, we just want to be understood without explanation. It's a completely ridiculous concept. Like, as an adult,
In order
right?
for you to reveal yourself, to start a conversation, you must reveal yourself, you know.
Exactly.
So
How is
he's
someone
going
going to
around.
understand you, understand who you are, understand your needs without you communicating? It's just not possible. But we all desire it on some level. We all desire not to constantly explain how we're feeling. We just want to be understood. We just want our partners to just get it. We just want uh, our parents to just get it, to get what you're going through. You want your colleagues, whatever, your friends to just get it, you know. But at the same time, we almost feel like things should be explained to us. It's this contrast. It's
Yeah.
absurd,
How
you
are we
know.
holding such opposing views at the same time and
Exactly.
doing ourselves a disservice? Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you for your
Yeah, but those are great questions.
Lola, okay, I see you. Lola, I see your hand up.
Okay. Hi, JJ. Thank you for the book. It had me at I quit my job. I'm like, okay, why? So I was telling the ladies I do the audio for most books, and I'm a very
Oh, okay.
interactive audio listener. So I'm asking
Yeah.
questions as I go along. But I just to speak to, him not revealing himself, I felt like there was parts of him that revealed himself to people, but people were not able to go there with him because
Hmm.
he would ask questions about death. Nobody wants to talk about death.
Yeah.
That's where his mind was. So he was revealing himself to certain different people, but they were not willing. The only person that went there with him was Belle.
Yeah.
And I think that's why there was that connection. But I think the twist, so when you talk about, people wanting to die and all of that, for sure. And he did have a plan. There was all of that going on. But as you said, I think he chose America because, and this is just me, because yes, America is dangerous. And at the point where they actually got robbed, him and the first girl,
Hmm.
the way he tempted fate, I thought
Mm.
that guy was gonna shoot him dead right away. And I'm like, okay, this is what he's been wanting, but now he's putting this girl in danger.
Right.
So that was interesting. But then the way you also described it just now got me thinking. So maybe this is more for him a metaphorical death where
Mm.
he's spent all of his life savings, so now he returns to London to start over.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess for me and I just, as you described that earlier now, that made me think, well, a metaphorical death is not a bad idea either. It's way better than the actual physical death, which would have traumatized his mom even more, even though mom was already traumatized because she didn't know,
Yeah.
where the son was, dead or alive.
Yeah.
And as Louisa says, sometimes you read this book, you're thinking certain Nigerian phrases come to mind. And in Nigeria, there's a saying that says, a child is better off dead than missing for the parent, because at least you know that there is a resting place. But when they're missing and you don't know, there's a
Yeah.
constant it never rests,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I felt bad for his mother in that way, but I was so happy he came back home. And so my question is, The pastor. Does he have a story coming?
Yeah, pastor.
Wow. You know what's fascinating is not in since it's been published and the talks, etc., interviews, whatever I've done about this book, not many people have asked about the pastor. I can maybe count on one hand the amount
Oh,
of times.
really?
Yeah,
That's
he
interesting.
does
I was
just he does not
I
get
was
brought
gonna ask
up.
if there was gonna be a story after, pastor story. Because
Yeah,
I said
I
maybe
would.
he
You know
wondered
what?
if that's why he killed himself.
I would love to. I think there's certain people who deserve their own story in the book, like Pasta, Belle, and Mami were always three people in my head who deserve their own fleshed out story. Um, with the pasta and I why he went on the journey that he did was also to show that even people who may be of extremely strong faith also will struggle with ideas of ending their life. And actually, statistics show that there's been an increase of people of faith ending their life over the past kind of 10, 20 years. But that's a question that gets swept under the carpet, because obviously from a religious perspective, if you end your life, you go straight to hell, right? And so you're even thinking about it is even seen as sinful. And almost like, you know, ending your life is seen as almost like blasphemous because you're rejecting God's gift to you, if you will.
Absolutely.
Um, so yeah, he's someone who he won't get his own story, unfortunately. But I didn't want to just leave it at Michael's story, and Michael doesn't end his life, and then everything is rosy. Like the reality is that people do end their lives, and for whatever reason, and we sometimes don't know. But how do we understand it as people, as human beings? How do we become comfortable about it? And maybe how do we find a way to have that conversation with someone before it's too late? And I think that was part of my idea with this book is just normalizing the conversation because once we hear it, we get tense. And I think actually the only way I've learned this through literature, I've learned this through my mental health training and so forth, is that the only way to help people with suicide is to actually talk about it.
Hmm. Yeah, it's like saying we need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable and also look
Yeah.
beyond cultures because somebody made these rules, right? Somebody got to define what
Hmm.
taboos are. Because if you
Yeah.
look at it in the traditional setting, in traditional societies, when a person commits suicide, he's buried in the evil
Hmm.
forest.
Yeah.
I don't know how it is in the Congo, but for us, like growing up, I remember I read
Hmm.
things like that. They will always bury the person in the evil forest. And I'm very, very happy that through what Michael was, even though Michael was always with people, but he always felt alone, very alone. And I liked the fact that he didn't have to go to the pastor for any healing and any counseling. I like that.
Mm.
Anytime people are going through mental health in books, marital issues, I don't ever want the church involved in their healing process. I don't, yeah, I'm one of those people who doesn't want that because this is the reality and this is the theory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So
Yeah.
my question here
The
is
church causes more damage sometimes.
it does.
Yeah.
Yes, it does cause more damage. Yeah, it does. So
Mhm.
my question here is, I'm looking at Michael's, okay, fine, he lost his dad. And from personal experience and having friends who maybe grew up without one parent in the family, I keep
Mhm.
noticing a pattern, especially when it comes to relationships,
Mhm.
multiple relationships. So it's almost like saying they're trying
Mhm.
to fill that void subconsciously. So
Mhm.
could that be what Michael was going through with the relationship with his work wife? Then the other girl, the other two ladies he met, is that why he wasn't able to be in a stable relationship? Because I thought he was gonna hit it off with, even though I hate that name, that word, work wife. work wife, work husband, I feel it's rubbish. It's rubbish. But I thought he was gonna hit it off with Sandra. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think the absence of a father?
It's not rubbish. It makes the day go faster. What's wrong with
look,
you?
I hate, you see those two concepts, work wife, work husband. Let me catch you. Let me catch you, work
You
wife.
can even have two, even each
Let
department.
me catch you, work wife.
You already know who has a work husband now.
Exactly. Like they're guilty. Let me catch you, work wife. So, do you think that the absence of a father had something to do with the way his relationships, his inability to have a stable relationship?
I think, especially for Michael, it's not causal. So there isn't, it's not to say that if someone doesn't have a father or a mother in their life, then they won't be able to have a relationship. There's many people who do. But I think with Michael, there were several compounding factors, right? One of them was that not only was his father not around, but his father initially was around and then suddenly, suffered uh, a traumatic situation that meant that he wasn't able to be there for Michael. Michael had moved around and kind of experienced a lot of abandonment as a child, right? And those issues affect his attachment and the relationships that he's able to develop. So if you think about that, if you think about it from, the difficulties in developing a relationship with his mother, the difficulties with experiencing racism in society, experiencing patriarchy in society, all of these systems that impose upon not just him, but us as people, right? And then he, in searching for a relationship, is trying to be vulnerable and form connections. And he realizes that these issues hinder the connections that he's able to form. Because really being in relationship, which is being in closeness with someone, not just an intimate relationship, but it could be a friendship, it could be parenthood, it could be whatever. It's holding up a mirror to ourselves, right? And sometimes when someone shows us a reflection of who we are, sometimes it scares us, right? And sometimes it causes us to run away. If we're lucky, we can ask ourselves why, and then try to answer those questions and heal from it. And that's where the healing process starts. But for him, I think those factors were all compounding. And you could see it, especially when he's in America, how he progresses from situation to situation. And, there's a lot of, and speaking now more specifically in terms of masculinity, a lot of men have uh, that experience. So when it comes to, male infidelity, or, the kind of toxic masculinization of men that reinforces men should be sleeping around, part of that is the fear of abandonment that they've experienced, and we're not taught to process it as men. We don't know where it even comes from. Um, and so I wanted to show that in Michael, but in also a way where he is, I guess, just a normal person. How all of these issues just manifest in just someone who you would consider generally a normal person.
Hmm. Okay. This is still me giving him the side eye. Yeah. So I like that you
It's
use.
not about Michael though, Luisa,
Well,
at this point. It's
I don't
about the
know.
male, the male gender.
Me, I don't know. Like I
And
said, I
and
read it in Nigerian,
no,
and
you need
this is
to,
me giving him the side eye. The luxury,
what are you giving him the side eye for?
just for
What
a lot of, just for a lot of things, just for a lot of things. Like I said, I'm still a work in progress. I told you people at the start that I'm still learning to be in touch with my vulnerable side. Because we are very practical people. You have a good job, you have friends,
but
you have
that's why people
savings.
end up dead every day.
Yes,
Because
but
it takes more than that.
if the Nigerian,
Everything is a lot of things is a facade that we put on. It's
yes,
a mask.
I
When
know. But so that's why I'm saying that I'm still getting there. Because
Mhm,
for us
mhm.
to say you wake up in the morning, life is a gift. you have a job, you have savings, you even have women interested in you, and you have friends. So people,
He doesn't see all those things.
yes, so he doesn't see all those things. So I am learning that, okay, we feel that emotions are a luxury. Yeah, so for you to tell someone,
Yeah,
go tell
yeah, yeah, yeah.
go tell your grandparents or your grandfather that you are depressed. It's up
Yeah,
to
exact. And you know what? And you know what? Yeah. So this is where it's important, especially in the Black context,
yeah.
right? Because from the Black perspective,
Hmm,
if you live a good life, if you've made it,
hmm,
you should want to hold on to that even more, right? Not just as a Black person in the Black community in the diaspora, but also relative to Black people back home on the continent. But what's actually super interesting is statistics show that there's about, I think, two or three African countries that make up the top 10 highest rates of suicide. Well, number one is Japan, actually, because Japan has a super high rate. But I think one of the other countries that is up there is Kenya, you know, in the top 10. And that's not necessarily, and in our culture as Black people,
hmm.
unfortunately, one of the stereotypes is our Black people don't kill themselves. That's a white
Yeah, we
people thing.
don't. We like life too much.
We
We
don't,
love life.
we don't, we
That's a
don't.
lie.
Yeah, but it's
It's
a
a
lie.
You
lie.
know,
It's a lie. It's a
I'm
lie.
It's a
like, listen,
lie.
It's a
the
lie.
It's a
data
lie
shows different.
that not only is it a lie, people die and folks know it's suicide. They bury it. They don't tell anybody it is, okay?
Yeah,
And they blame it on other things,
The devil.
yeah,
witchcraft.
Usually the devil or
yeah.
witchcraft. That's evil.
So, yeah,
There's a
we've,
shame,
we've got
and
a
that's
long
because
way
of
to go.
shame,
Yeah, there's
We've
right?
got a
We
long,
see it
long way to go.
for various reasons, whether it's culture, whether it's religion, whatever. We see it as a shame, as a failure, right, of the person, and a shame on the family if this person decided to end their own life. And so people make up lots of different reasons. But the fact is it's a significant issue in our community,
yeah.
and we're not talking about it. But also, as people who experience, the systems of oppression as harshly as we do, I understand that our survival in many ways depends on how strong we can be when we go out there into the world. But we also have to ask ourselves, where can we be vulnerable if not with each other? You know, where can we be vulnerable if not in our communities, in our homes? And I think that increasingly, if you look at the direction that society has gone in the past 10, 20 years, we in many ways are more connected because 20 years ago we wouldn't have been able to do this, right? So in many ways, like I'm like, wow, there's Black people in Ottawa who want to read my book. Like it's amazing, you know.
I
20 years ago,
no. I think
we wouldn't have been able to do this.
yeah, I think with vulnerability, one thing people struggle with is the fear of being judged.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you feel you are giving away your power. Yes. So the fear
yeah.
of being judged and the fear of giving away
Hey,
your
Mama.
that's I think that's the thing with vulnerability. And I think that yes, in Black communities, because like especially with men, as we're discussing earlier,
Mm.
I assumed that men are more open with each other than women are with each other. That's what I
Oh,
always
really?
thought. Yes, I've always
Oh,
thought so.
wow.
Yeah, because when men drink, they talk. They talk about everything.
Yeah,
Women,
they talk about women and how to make money. They don't talk about the real issues.
you think
Yeah,
so?
Men,
And women
yes,
really
yeah.
lie to each other.
please
I
correct
know
me if
Still,
I'm
some.
men
They
are
wrong,
don't
more
talk
vulnerable
JJ.
about
with
their
each other.
feelings
That's
unless
yeah,
something crazy happens.
yeah.
Yes,
They don't
And
talk.
even if something crazy happens,
Mhm.
they joke
sometimes it's good
around
to
with
talk.
it. Have you
You know,
heard,
I
guys? Somebody's dad died. They're making fun of him in 10 minutes. This is
yeah,
how men
yeah,
deal
yeah,
with
yeah,
stuff.
Really?
yeah,
They don't bring you
yeah.
food over. They make it, your papa don't die. Now me and you
Why
did the
you
same
got
now. We're now the
yeah.
same. Yeah.
Wow.
Uh,
Okay. I've always
you got
assumed.
divorced. I mean, I've got some friends like this, who one of my friends who went through a divorce. He was married, with the partner for like 8 years, and then went through a divorce. We found out about the divorce like 6 months later. He didn't, and in
Wow.
that time we were seeing each other. He just never told anyone, never communicated. About 6 months to a year later, like, oh, you know,
What's up?
uh, what's up here? And he's like, oh, yeah, I got divorced. What?
What?
Like, what, like, and so this is often how it's like for a lot of men, and also in society generally, people feel more comfortable revealing themselves to strangers than they do to people who they're close to. There's been so many times where I'm having such a deep, profound conversation to just a random person that I've met on the train or in the airport or something, knowing that I'm never going to see them again, right?
That's
But when it comes,
safety.
huh?
I think is
It's
that
safety.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. It's that even that even if you're going to be judged,
Mhm.
you're not going to see them again. So you can carry on with the facade, the perception of who you carry,
Yeah.
right, in your own life. So we fear that if people look at us differently, we fear that people will look at us differently if we're vulnerable, if we show our true selves to our people. And I feel like that's something that, somehow we have to find, as men, especially, we have to find a way to change it because honestly, when I think about all the conversations, one day I'd love to write a book where it's just like anonymous conversations with men or something, where I just collect all the conversations of vulnerability that men have. And I've been at house parties, um, and had random guys that I've just met talking about heartbreak and how they're heartbroken, how they feel inadequate, how their relationship issues, how maybe even like suicide or mental health. All of these questions of conversations come up because men don't feel like they have somewhere they can go to take these conversations.
So who do you think, so from your experience working in mental health, who do you think men
Mm.
are more vulnerable with, women or fellow men? Because I've always assumed men are, when they're with the boys, they discuss
Hmm.
everything. But from this book and everything you're saying, it's not what we think.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be Superman. So who do
Yeah.
you think men are most vulnerable with? Women?
I would say, personally, I would say it's different vulnerability,
Oh,
but men are most vulnerable with women, right? But it depends on the type of vulnerability and the depths of that relationship. However, when it comes to men with other men, they're probably more likely to feel understood or accepted
mhm,
by other men. Sometimes that might be on a performative level. We all want to be accepted, right? So when men come together, part of that desire might be, hey, I just want to be accepted. So if someone in a group says something silly, something misogynistic, whatever, you might not call it out because you just want to be accepted,
mhm,
right? But actually revealing your innermost emotions, it's often women who men are more vulnerable to because women often carry the emotional burden of relationships. You know,
okay.
that's the reality of life. Oftentimes, um, men seek sex, right? When they really desire intimacy, as in intimacy like vulnerability. They
Mhm,
desire someone to talk to,
mhm,
but they don't know how to communicate,
okay.
right? How to communicate that they just need to talk. And so it's weird. The culture, the way it's set up, there's a script for sex,
Mhm,
right?
yeah.
There's a script for sex and intimacy between men and women, but there isn't a script between vulnerability. If you want to have sex, generally it's what? Dating, in the club, whatever, transactional. There's a quite direct pathway.
Mhm,
When it comes to finding someone to be vulnerable with, how? Like, how do you do that?
mm,
A lot of men don't know how to do that. And not only do you not know how to do that, you don't know if it's even going to be successful. And it hurts way more. And so I think that's part of the conditioning, unfortunately, that a lot of men go through that we have to unlearn. But we're just not there yet.
yeah, I'm still getting used to the fact that the thought that
Louisa, I
men
think
cry.
Lola has had her hand up for a while.
Okay, okay, Lola, just a minute. I'm still getting used to the thought that men cry. Yeah, because I've always assumed it's something you do in your bedroom. So if you cry
Mm.
before me, I don't really know what to do. I think the only thing I would say is okay to cry.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's good.
Lola, you
Yeah,
have your
it's
hand
okay.
up.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna go a different direction here. Dwayne, can we talk a little bit about Dwayne,
Yeah.
please?
Thanks for
Because
bringing
Yeah.
that up.
yeah.
Dwayne. Yeah, what do
And
you want
after
to
that, we're going to talk about the NBA. Sorry, don't forget. Oh, we're all basketball fans. I saw
Oh,
you
are you?
snuck
Oh, that's great.
you snuck Dwayne in, so that's Dwayne Wade. Then you snuck Savannah in, that's Savannah James, and then I think I heard LeBron. So thanks for all the little things NBA basketball. So please answer Lola.
I I appreciate that. Dwayne, I love it when NBA when basketball fans get things in my writing. Dwayne Dwayne was one of my favorite characters, and I feel like Dwayne, from the way that I wrote him, almost is a younger version of Michael in many ways.
That's
Who
what I
sees
thought.
himself in Dwayne,
Yes.
and he he wants Dwayne to just to he wants him not to make the same mistakes that he did, right? And so he really focuses on him, kind of takes him under his wing. But unfortunately, life doesn't always work out in the way that it should. Um, and I think that's part of the tragedies. You know, I've worked with young people a lot over the years, and I'll always think like there was a young person that I worked with who, you know, sadly had his life ended due to a violent situation. And it's just tragic that those situations happen. Like, and you think that like, you know, 15, 16. I think Dwayne is 15, 16. That is so young,
Mhm.
right? And I wanted to show not really, it's not really about showing um well, rather I wanted to show what you lose. So if Michael is who someone like Dwayne could become,
Right.
right? And he doesn't get the opportunity, look at what we're losing in the process, and how do we change that, you know? And I think for that, earlier I spoke about like the compounding factors that make up why Michael wanted to end his life, and part of experiencing what happened with Dwayne was also the reason.
Yeah, reading his death,
As,
I thought, what a loss of potential because he had
Yeah,
great potential. That was my,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
as a mother of a young teenage son, what could have been done differently for Dwayne? Do
Hmm.
you think Michael did the best that he could have done for this boy?
I think Michael did. You know, you do the best you can with what you have.
Mm,
Sometimes life works out for the better. Sometimes it doesn't. I think we can't save everyone as much as we desire to. Michael, whether it's Dwayne, whether it's the pastor, and I think the best thing that you can do with someone is actually be there for them, right? Is listen to them, is help them see. Because this is what I think about when, you know, for young people, or particularly young men who live a certain life that might lead to kind of violent crime and stuff. I think about the fact that what gets them to that stage is initially they're looking for acceptance. They're looking for somewhere they belong. It's because they don't see a version of themselves. They don't see a vision of themselves. They don't know who to turn to. And the first thing you could do is just try to create a safe space for them where they can just be, and you can just listen to them. Because a lot of the times, especially for young people, is there's not a place where they feel listened to. It's incredibly hard being, I think we forget, I definitely forgotten. Like, I think it's so hard being a teenager, right? Never mind all the emotions, all of the, you know, the chemicals in your brain just going 100 miles an hour at such a vulnerable stage. But you're very disempowered in that you don't have the same agency. You can't yet make your own decisions, right? And especially for a young black boy, where you're often treated like an adult, and young black women as well, you're treated like an adult. Um, and so you're expected to grow up, you're treated a certain way. But it's about creating a safe space where they can explore, where they can express themselves, and where they can also make mistakes, right? Without feeling like there's something wrong with them or that they've failed. Um, And I think that that's part of the reason why. Like, it's, I feel like growing up, I was very lucky to have a sense of community and to have somewhere where, like a family where I was able to ask questions and also make my mistakes and also learn from others' mistakes. And I remember my dad telling me that you don't have to make mistakes to learn from them. You can learn from others' mistakes. So when I saw in my era kind of growing up and stuff, when I saw guys hanging out on the streets, selling drugs, doing this, doing that, and then ending up in prison, I was like, oh, I don't have to make that mistake to learn from it. That was some simple advice, and sometimes, but to get to that stage where I was able to listen, there needed to be a safe space of trust for me to trust the person who was telling me that. Otherwise, as a teenager, you're not going to listen. And so, how do we build that safe space, that community for young people to be able to trust how we're helping them navigate through the world?
Okay, so when you're talking about building safe spaces, so where do you draw the line between building safe spaces, trying to be helpful, interfering, and not minding your business?
Mm. Building safe spaces. That's good. Not minding your business, yeah. I think, for example, is like this. When are you in conversation with someone, right? Or are you just gossiping? That's one thing. People just ask you about stuff because they want to have something to talk about rather than wanting to support you, right?
Hiya,
And so I
I'm just out
think
here.
we can tell the difference in our conversations that we have with people
Mhm.
when it comes to building safe spaces is how often are you showing up for this person? Is there a gateway? Is there a door that if this person is going through something that they can come to you? Do you check in with this person? It can be that maybe it's not someone that you speak to every day, but you just remind them, hey, I hope, etc., etc., looking up, that kind of thing. And so they know that you're a safe person that they can come to. And just having regular conversations, I really don't think it's as complicated as we make it seem. It's not a complex science, but I think part of it is just being there for each other and affirming each other in little ways. And it starts off small, just saying hello to each other. I mean, we've lost the culture of, or we're losing the culture of saying hello to each other in our communities.
Oh,
A little head nod.
yeah.
Even that.
In Canada, they don't do that. Here we
They
don't
don't
even
do the
do
head
that.
nod?
No, no, no head nod. You just walk in and you look the other way.
Ah,
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah.
Amongst black people even?
We don't. We
Hmm.
don't. Maybe if you see
You
an
know what?
older Nigerian,
Luisa,
right?
you don't because you're very tall. So you don't see nobody.
So I have to look
Don't
down
say
and see
that.
people. I
Don't say that.
see. So I have to
Don't
look down
say
and
that.
see people.
So,
No, but most
anyways,
of the time they
sorry,
don't.
I wanted to add, Mr. Bola, I wanted to
Hmm.
add to so what you and Luisa were saying. So basically, yes, it's very simple. We just have to be there for each other. I feel like the Michael there, he has his own problems. I feel like
Hmm.
if he was more present, even like you cannot pour from an empty cup.
Hmm.
I feel
Yep.
like if Michael himself had all these things that he was able to, he should have been able to give this little boy, maybe it would have been better. But you've got a teacher barely making it to school on autopilot, doing
Yep.
there's little. So I believe he could have done more for somebody who was unmarried at the time, living at home with his mom, like one little kid off the street. You could have paid
Mm.
more attention. But again, he had his own struggles, even though it
Hmm.
appeared that sometimes I imagine Michael on a dating site, all these profiles, he looks fantastic. Like he's got
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
shit together. Meanwhile, the
Yeah.
guy is a whole mess. Excuse my
Yeah.
language.
It's
And then
true.
some women matches with him. You go on a couple of dates, then he start acting crazy, and you think it's you. No, it's him. It's never.
Right.
It's barely about you.
Mm-hmm.
It's
And this is
all
the
about
thing,
it's
right?
about this man. This is what I
We're
learned
all
from listening to you.
and this is the thing is we're all perfectly broken, you
Yes.
know?
But
But when it comes
question
to
though,
dating or the facade of our lives, what we show to the outside world, we show the best of ourselves. Instagram, whatever. our lives are perfect on the outside, right? And so could we do more with pouring? We could do more by pouring into ourselves before we pour into others.
True.
Absolutely, right? But sometimes that means that we have to face our innermost
Own
demons,
challenges, our own
our innermost
demons.
challenges. Sometimes that means that we have to sit with ourselves with no distractions. I mean, we can't even stop scrolling on our phones. I say that to myself. Anything. I like to journal and diary and stuff, but sometimes I don't want to be thinking about my thoughts all the time,
No,
and I'm someone who's normally very reflective. I write a lot, I reflect a lot. So if I feel this way, maybe the average man who isn't that reflective
Mhm.
doesn't have the skills to be able to deal with themselves, right? But they might feel that they can help someone in what little way. And I feel as human beings, we're always in a push and a pull. Sometimes we feel we can help someone. Sometimes we feel like we're not able to. Sometimes we feel like, why should it be me? Sometimes we feel like you want to hide from the world, right? Complicated. We're complex. But also, this conversation is with the benefit of hindsight,
true.
right? So with hindsight, we could always have done more, you
Mhm.
know. Um,
But there's a flip side too, is help. There's only so much help you can give if it is not well received. Dwayne
yeah,
was also
yeah.
very rebellious, like,
Hmm.
probably because he was on the streets. He's like, what do you know? I can do so
Yeah.
much better. But he came around, which
Hmm.
unfortunately, ended. But help can only be given in so much as it is received. So
Yeah.
could Michael have done more? I think he did what he could. If
Yeah.
he
And
wasn't
then
struggling, maybe he might have gone to the basketball game and that might have helped Dwayne and,
Connect.
things like that.
yeah.
But, you know, help can only be given in as much as it is received.
And what
Similarly,
about his
in
mother?
so I'll get to the mum.
Thank
Similarly, in the same way that Dwayne was resistant to Michael's help, Michael was also resistant to help
To his
from other
mother.
people,
other people. That's right. Yes.
right? And so what that shows is growth is a journey. Sometimes when we help people, this is why I don't like to talk about helping people. I like to talk about being there for people.
Right.
I feel like those are two different things,
Yes.
right?
I agree.
When you talk about wanting to help someone, it's often there's almost like a different power dynamic. Yeah. As in you're the person who's there to rescue this person,
Yes. It's a
right?
savior complex.
Savior complex, exactly. But being there for someone means that you're in the same condition.
Right.
You have empathy for this person
Right.
and you're sitting beside them saying, it's going to be okay. Where
And
you're
that's what
sitting is
made him
where
and
I am.
Belle connected.
Exactly.
Belle was there for him. She didn't try to help. She didn't try to save him. She didn't try to
Yeah.
do nothing. She was just there.
Yeah.
And that's the
Exactly.
difference. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And this is why I just say and sometimes we have to accept that life will happen a certain way and we don't have the answers. And this is why in this book as well, it's interesting because in a lot of the talks that I've done, people will ask me why this, why that, especially one of the questions that comes a lot is how did Michael get home then? How did he get back to London? He spent almost all his money. How did he get back? We don't have to have the answers to everything, guys. Like I just say that. And we don't. And I feel like as human beings, we have to accept that we don't have the answers to everything, you know.
I
And so
agree.
there's
We
many
don't have to have the
things.
answers, but I made up an
Mm,
answer in my mind. I'm like, oh yeah, you can always call your credit card company and say you lost your credit cards.
listen,
Or
Yeah,
or call, what's his friend's name? The Asian guy.
not
right.
Jalil.
If you were
Jaleel,
stranded somewhere in this day and age, you'll
You will
find a
you'll
get
way.
make it
home.
home for sure,
You'll
man.
make it home. You'll
Like you
make it
could
home.
break into a store and you get deported
You
back to
could
England.
do something. Yeah, you'll be
Commit a
fine, but
crime.
you'll get somehow.
I like the
You'll
mystery
get
of not
somehow.
knowing how he got home.
Yeah.
I just like
But
the fact
that's
he got home.
yeah.
And then my conclusion
Yeah.
was, so love is what he's been searching for all these while. Yeah, because when I read
Mm,
the last, because I had to go, I listened to the audiobook, then I went back and read the last chapter again because I needed to understand. And I went, oh, So it's love you've been looking for all this while.
Not love, connection.
Love,
Is it
understanding,
Connection.
acceptance.
But I would even say, right?
Mhm,
So for me, when we have the conversation about love,
mhm.
people often think romantic love,
Yeah, exactly. This
right?
is romantic love, but no.
But
Mm-mm.
no. And then when people say, oh, um, it wasn't love, it was connection, it was respect, it was understanding, but those things are love.
They are, yeah.
I don't understand. Like, I cannot have a love without connection. That isn't
It's
love.
true.
Yeah.
You cannot have a love without understanding. You cannot have a love without acceptance. That isn't love. Love is the umbrella under
Yes.
which all of these things are connection, respect, understanding, compassion, empathy, hope.
Right.
All of these things are under. But he was, and I feel for me, and this is why this subject means so much to me, is that we act like it's to be alive in a human body, right? So much that we don't even question. It is not normal to be alive in a human body. Just think about, I always say, just think about the fact that you're alive in your body
Yeah.
right now. Yeah. What it took for you to be here right now.
Mhm.
N Not even the process of evolution or creation or whatever you mean in, whatever you believe in. Just let's say, even if you just go back to your parents or your grandparents or your great grandparents, the connections that people would have had to have had, all the just for you to be here right now. And we don't even think about that, you know? And for me, never mind the universe, never mind space, never mind billions and billions of stars and all the cells and all the billions of cells that are in us, all of these complications, right? I just think about we're alive in this body at this time. It's exceptional, you know? And so for me, when I talk about love, I talk about all of those things and I talk about the almost like the revelation or the realization that you are alive in your body. Like, when you're like, oh, I'm alive in this body.
Life is a
You're not
gift.
just someone who's going to work and you go work, you go home. Like, all of these are just extra. But you are human, you're spirit, your soul in this body, alive in this world at this time. Like, that to me is the most fascinating thing in the world. And love is the pull that keeps us going. Because why, and I genuinely feel this is, so oftentimes we ask the question, why would someone end their life? But in writing this book, I was asking the question, why would someone keep living?
Mhm.
When we flip the question on its head, it completely shifts our perspective because it's like, hold on, why do we keep living? Why do we wake up and go to work every day and try to provide for ourselves and provide for our families? It's absurd.
Yeah, but hope keeps us going.
It keeps us
Hope,
going.
yeah.
But why?
So it's like that star you are trying to reach. You're trying to catch it and it keeps being moved away, pushed away, and
Yeah,
you're taking it.
yeah, and you never catch it and you never reach it. But actually, if there is an answer, but you think about, oh, oh, I love this person. Oh, I want to see this person tomorrow. I want to experience this person. I want. So it's not why Michael wants to end his life.
Mhm.
The question for him is why he should keep on going. And I think he gets to the very end of the book, and in that last paragraph, that's where he answers that. That's where he finds his reason why he keeps on going. And that reason for me, as I understand it, and through Michael, is love. Love is the love for ourselves, love for others, love for our friends, our family, our community. That is the thing, and not this flowers and roses type love, but a deep, really radical, hopeful type of love that tomorrow is going to be better than today.
Yeah, I
You
think
know?
when I got to that, I think when I got to the end and I reread it, it was almost as if everything had come full circle. It reminded me of this
Yes.
book, The Alchemist. I read a very long time ago.
Yeah.
You start from this point and you go and you come back to this very same point.
Yeah.
To realization of a lot of things. And maybe also as Africans, because we've been colonized and sometimes our thinking patterns too have been colonized. Most of the time they say, oh, life is a gift. God kept you alive and you woke up. Like this morning, I sent a message. A friend and a colleague passed on this morning.
Oh no.
So much. Like so
Yeah.
much going for her. And I remember back then I used to be like, this girl is so lucky. She's got this, she's got this, she's got this. But this morning when I heard that she had passed on, my mind just went to, so all the money in the bank, or everything, look, all these things we fight for, that we think, oh, you know what? If I buy this new suit, it will look great. Then you remember that, oh, with this suit, I need this pair of shoes. Oh, with these shoes, I need these earrings. I need this. It's nothing. Lide, I see your hand up.
I was just wondering if Mr. Bola could indulge us.
Let me see. Yeah, okay. Please. Then we'll take a group picture. Yeah.
I assume he has a copy.
You have your copy?
That's a good question.
Get your copy, please.
I have a copy somewhere. Just bear with me.
Sure.
And yeah.
I think okay, he's gone. I think Miss Emmeline had a question before me or after.
Okay, please. My phone has been buzzing. I can't find it. Let me.
Miss Emmeline.
Yeah, well, I was just saying for Michael, he also came to the realization that life is life. And, there is always the good and evil, the two spirits fighting. What do I do? And until we accept that, sometimes we can just go down the dark hole, the darkest hole. And again, it's just showing up for each other. So I love the discussion and supporting each other and being there for each other, because I think once we bring ourselves to that point, we less like judgmental. Even if we don't think we're judging, we do judge. We might say, oh, you don't have problems if you only know what I'm going through, or the next person is still a judgment. And the other thing is we just got to keep on moving, because we have so many other people after us, before us, who are relying on us. So it's hopeful in that sense to just be there for each other and come together. So thank you for clarifying all those thoughts on the book. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Lida, you said you wanted to indulge us.
I've got a different edition, but
I think that's the UK one.
Yeah, the UK one. Which way is this? Oh.
Yeah, but it's the same. Lida, okay, so we take the group photo before he. I know you want to.
We've got the best edition here.
Okay. Have you all got your copies? Let's do the screenshots before. Let's see. I think I got that, right? Okay.
All right.
So what do you want him to do? You want him to read?
Yes, it's going to be the final chapter on suffering.
Is it that last paragraph? And this?
No, not the very last. In our edition, it's on page 238.
238.
238, 239. So let's say 239. So chapter.
What does it say?
Sorry?
Is it to live is to suffer? To live is to suffer?
Yes. Well, yes. Suffering must be given a voice. From there.
Suffering must be. Oh, I see it here.
What chapter?
So that's page 239.
Chapter 31.
Chapter 31. Oh, okay. Chapter 31.
Around 6-7 pages into chapter 31.
So you see where there's $100 on one side, then on the other page.
Yeah.
What chapter?
31. 31.
Open page 239. Okay, you are doing the audio one.
Wait, hold on.
No, I have the actual ebook too.
Okay.
Oh, good, Lola.
So 2 pages before page 30, before chapter 32.
Oh, okay.
Suffering must
be.
Yeah.
Um, okay. You have to ask yourself why. Why did this happen? Ask yourself, what is the meaning behind your suffering? There is none. We're born, we die, and in between we suffer. That's life. It happens. Suffering must be given a voice, a platform from which to speak. It is then that suffering becomes art and in turn becomes truth. I would prefer a life without suffering. Show me a man who has not suffered, and I'll show you a man who has not lived.
Thank you.
So, yeah, and
And then the
That's
last paragraph there, you said, you think I still wouldn't be suffering if I had a roof over my head?
yes,
Suffering is our shared language, our common bond. One of the two things that reminds us, all of us, that we are acutely and intensely alive, that we are all the same. The other is love. Thank you.
thank you.
thank you so
Thank you.
thank you so much. I don't, does anybody
Thank
have
you.
any more questions? Because we can go on, but I remember you said you had something doing. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He can go, but more basketball stuff. More
Okay, more
basketball.
Okay, you know what? But
Yeah.
uh, are you okay? I'll this last thing, and then I have to go.
Okay.
But I hope, obviously, I imagine you're all watching the Olympics,
Correct.
I
and I
just
hope you've been seeing what South Sudan.
South Sudan. We're rooting for
Yeah,
South Sudan.
yeah, we're
That was
cheering for South
awesome.
Sudan. Yeah.
I was so
Okay.
rooting for them to win.
Okay.
LeBron
Yeah.
just tweeted something about them just now. He
Oh,
said
right.
them boys was clean AF. He was
Yeah. Yeah.
referring
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
their Olympics opening outfits.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for the
So,
basketball. More to come.
more to come. More to come. But thank you so much for having me. This was
Thank you.
a,
uh,
Good
a
job. Bye now.
discussion.
thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, JJ. Thank you
Take
so
care.
much
Thank
for
you
being.
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you so
Don't
much.
go, Miss Emily.
Okay.
Take
All right.
care. Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.